Good evening. My name is Diallo Shabazz. I am the Director of Green Career Development for Solar One. I work on our Green Job Training Program where we train individuals in New York City in green jobs. The mission of Solar One is to transform New Yorkers' attitudes around environmental issues. But there's a quintessential question that we have to ask ourselves, which is how do we empower New York residents to take an active role in transforming our green infrastructure? You know, how do we have an impact on lowering our electrical bills and making our buildings more energy efficient and improving the air and water quality in the city? And talking about green jobs, you know, the term green is kind of amorphous. Green basically means that, you know, it's something that's good for the environment. One of the reasons, of course, we focus on green jobs is because of climate change. We want to make sure that all of the CO2 and carbon emissions that are created in our society are mitigated, and we believe that green jobs can have a substantive impact on that. So with green jobs, there are a few different kinds of green jobs that Solar One focuses on, particularly in New York City because it's served by the market that we train people in our training program. One of them is solar PV and solar thermal. Solar PV stands for solar voltaic. Solar PV is the electrical power generated from the sun. Solar thermal is using the sun's power to heat like water pipes, so you can have like a heat water in your home using the sun. Another is weatherization. You know, weatherization is basically making buildings more energy efficient. You're going in and replacing windows, you're caulking, stopping drafts, etc. Energy auditing, having people go out to buildings and kind of do an assessment of the lighting, of the plug load, figuring out how much energy is being used by the building. And the fourth area we're kind of doing right now is electrical retrofitting, which is having people go out after the energy audit has already been done and doing the physical work in the building to make it more energy efficient. So Solar One kind of has a bird's eye view of how the green sector is developing in New York City. We work with the policymakers and the legislators who are creating the laws that are kind of like driving the market. We also work with people who are doing research on what green jobs are available and what skill sets are available so people can qualify to work in those green jobs. We work with the contractors who are the people who are out actually doing the physical work, the construction companies that are doing the work in the community. We work with outreach coordinators. We have some on staff at Solar One who are going out into communities and talking to people about the importance of renewable energy and energy efficiency, how people can make their homes more energy efficient, what financing programs are available and incentives so that people can pay for these retrofits to actually be done. And obviously we're involved in the training and workforce development. We really want to take responsibility in training New Yorkers to develop the human capital that's going to be driving green jobs in New York City. And we're talking about sustainable development. You know, sustainable development is really an idea that's easy to understand if we pretend like all of you here right now is a president of the United States of America. You know, and so it's your job to really keep in mind all of these different areas that impact the country. And from a sustainable standpoint, you have to keep in mind that we want to make sure that we're monitoring and managing how each of these different areas is impacting the other. You know, so how is the waste we're creating impacting our air and water? How's it impacting the trees and the outdoor space? We think about our food and agriculture, you know, how much it costs to transport it, cool it while it's being transported, and how much energy we have to expend to do that. So sustainable development is an important part of green jobs because green jobs take into account each of these areas at the same time. So if you have a carpenter or an electrician or a plumber going to a building, they understand how all of those different areas interrelate instead of just thinking about them from a silo standpoint. Also, as we move forward, green jobs are really bringing something to the forefront, which is called the triple bottom line. You know, it's no longer just about what financial impact it has on a company or on a community. The triple bottom line takes into account the economy, it takes into account society, the impact it has on the people, and it also takes into account the environment. So when we're thinking about the impact that green jobs have on a city or have on an industry, we're thinking about the triple bottom line. Now, Solar One's Green Job Training Program has been implemented in the middle of what we call the Great Recession. You know, we've taken responsibility to training New Yorkers to have an impact on our green energy infrastructure. But not just any New Yorker. What we really want to do is make sure that we work with the target population that can really benefit from this. Many of the people that go through our program are unemployed and underemployed. They have very low educational attainment. They haven't graduated from high school. Some of them are even ex-offenders. So these are the people that we focused on the training green jobs. The type of jobs we train in our buildings is weatherization, as we said before. In New York City, 77% of all the pollution in New York City comes from buildings. So obviously we want to mitigate and impact climate change in New York City. Weatherization is an important place. There are 8 million homes in New York City. 8 million people in New York City, about 3 million homes. Almost every home is not energy efficient. So obviously there's a lot of work that can be done in this area. Renewable energy, we train people in solar. Other kinds of renewable energy are wind and biodiesel, of course. We work with companies like Alt Solar and Green Power Solutions to place people from our programs into these kinds of green jobs. Now, while urban farming was typically kind of reserved for like the crazy eccentric people who really want to kind of cram as many tomato plants in their fire escape as possible, you know, urban farming has really kind of taken off in recent years and become a much more viable industry. One of the largest rooftop gardens in the entire country is in Brooklyn, and urban farming is an area where we're really looking to begin training programs and push people into in New York City. An example of a kind of hybrid model, Bright Farm is a company that's kind of integrated solar panels on a rooftop where they're doing urban farming on top of a building, and they're also capturing the heat from the building. So this is an example that's either being built or is just finished being built in the Bronx. So an example of green jobs being created in New York City. One of the things I want to talk to you about briefly are the fact or fiction of green jobs. Do green jobs exist? Are these jobs out there? So we're going to kind of dispel 5 myths about green jobs. 1, this is a cartoon of a company that's running away from the United States, stepping overseas. It's all about outsourcing. The example that comes to mind, a company, Evergreen Solar in Massachusetts, recently received $43 million from the state of Massachusetts to create green jobs. They hired 800 people to work in a plant. They became the 3rd largest solar manufacturing company in the organization in the country. And they recently announced they were moving to China. They laid off 800 people and they left. You know, after getting about $32 million in addition from the Chinese government. You know, so people say this is an example of why green jobs don't work, not realizing that it's not really the green job, it's really manufacturing in general. Our nation has really fallen behind in the manufacturing sector across the board. Another is looking at the important role that government subsidies and contracts. People say myth 2 that green jobs aren't viable because they rely on the government. There have been a number of different industries that relied on government subsidies and contracts, including computer and internet companies, cell phone companies. That's the first Ford Model T automobile. We have to ask ourselves how many interstate highways in the country have been built by automobile companies, and the answer is 0. Over the past 40 years, the United States government has 40 years alone, they've invested about $340 billion in highway creation. President Obama recently announced he wanted to allocate about $50 billion in high-speed railway construction, and that's been given back. You know, high-speed railroads, public transportation is an example of a green job. So it's important to keep in mind that government subsidies benefit all industries, not just green jobs. This is New Jersey. New Jersey, right next to New York, New Jersey has a high level of solar integration. They're about 3rd or 4th in the nation. New York is nowhere near the top of that list. The reason is not because New Jersey gets more sun than New York. It's because New Jersey has a special set of laws and incentives that power the creation of solar integration in New Jersey. So incentives and laws can help drive integration in green jobs. Okay. My last 2 slides. Myth number 4. Green jobs are only available for people who have a high level of education. This is in the bottom right-hand corner, we see an energy auditor who's inspecting the building. An energy auditor would also use a number of entry-level people to go in and measure the windows, to measure the plug load. They wouldn't do that themselves. In the same way that a lawyer would have paralegals, that a chef would have sous chefs assisting them, in the same way that a landscape architect has assistants, there are entry-level jobs available in the green job industry, and solar trains for those. And last but not least, there have been a lot of articles coming out that's showing that if they try to, myth number 5 is that if we can zero in on one kind of green job that can prove that all green jobs don't work. You know, with the Evergreen Solar example, people said that because solar manufacturing doesn't work, that all green jobs don't work. If someone told me they worked in solar, I would assume that they worked in sales and marketing or in solar installation. You know, if you're looking at the green job sector, you have solar manufacturing, you have sales and marketing, you have solar systems design where the person comes up to your house and measures how much power you need, and you have solar installations, a picture from our training program here. You can't draw a conclusion based on a small data set about all of solar, much less all of green jobs. You know, so green jobs in New York City are here, they're here to stay, they're growing, and Solar One is participating in developing the human capital for green jobs in the city. Thank you.